It happened on Christmas. My mom was showing our old family photo albums to my fiancé. He suddenly went still, squeezed my hand, and whispered, "Don't you see it?" "See what?" I asked, confused. "How can you not see it?" His tone was sharp now, almost frightened. He pointed something out, and once my eyes followed his, I couldn't unsee it either. 5 hours later, I was on the phone with the police. I'd always imagined that if my life ever collapsed into something big enough for a documentary, something that shattered everything I knew, there would at least be a soundtrack. Maybe a deep rumble of suspense, a storm rolling in, something cinematic. But there was no thunder, no ominous score. There was just potato salad, dry lamb, and my mom humming Mariah Carey as she wiped down the kitchen counter, oblivious to the way she had, once again, turned nostalgia into a weapon. The house smelled like it always did during the holidays, a mix of lemon cleaner and something faintly burnt. I hadn't expected anything unusual that day. That's the thing. I came in wearing my best polite smile, pretending that this year would somehow feel different. Even though it never did, Lucas, my fiancé, was calm and observant as always, a man who noticed everything and rarely missed a detail. I'd brought him along hoping he'd help ground me through another awkward family gathering. In hindsight, that was a mistake. My sister Nina was already there, twirling a glass of wine and dressed in something beige that screamed expensive. Her boyfriend nodded in all the right places, like a man trained for background approval. My parents smiled their practice smiles. Dinner went as expected, polite, uncomfortable, and quietly strained beneath the surface. The roast was overcooked, the raita was sharp, and conversation was painfully thin. Mom asked Nina about her new job. Dad quizzed Lucas about computers as though technology were an alien concept. Nobody asked me anything, but that was tradition. I used to get upset about it. Now I just kept time, counting the minutes before they collectively forgot I existed. This year's record, 9 minutes. After dessert, Mom did her usual performance. She clapped her hands with fake excitement and said, "I brought out the albums!" like it was a spontaneous idea and not the annual ritual she planned with military precision. She always brought them out, always pretending she'd just found them buried under towels in the hallway closet. And every year, we all smiled like we hadn't memorized every stain and crease on those pages. Nina leaned in with dramatic interest. Her boyfriend put on his polite face, and Lucas sat quietly beside me. I mostly watched him instead of the photos. The first album was full of birthdays, beach trips, and embarrassing school pictures. The second was Nina's baby years. Mom glowing, Dad proud. Then came the third album, Mine. That's when Lucas changed. He didn't speak at first, but I saw it. The way his shoulders went rigid. The way he studied each page with that same sharp focus he used when editing photos, spotting imperfections only he could see. He tilted his head slightly, analyzing, comparing. Then, without meeting my eyes, he took my hand under the table. "Don't you see it?" he whispered again. I frowned. "See what?" "How can you not see it?" Then he let go, turned another page, and smiled like nothing had happened, laughing at my mom's story about how I once tried to feed a pine cone to a stray cat. I sat there frozen, my ears ringing. I tried to match his calm expression, to keep smiling, but it felt like my face didn't belong to me anymore. When I leaned closer and quietly asked him what was wrong, he shook his head. "I'll explain later," he murmured. "Just play along." That phrase, "just play along," summed up my entire childhood. We left about 20 minutes later. Lucas made some excuse about an early flight or maybe a late Zoom call. I honestly can't remember. Mom fussed, Dad barely reacted, and Nina didn't look up from her phone. I hugged them all goodbye like I wasn't coming apart inside. Once we were in the car, Lucas reached into his coat pocket and pulled out several photos. He must have taken them from the pile beside the albums without anyone noticing. "Look," he said quietly. I took the first one. Me as a kid, wearing a pink coat standing in front of a stone wall. I'd seen it 1,000 times. It was one of those background memories you don't even think about. "What about it?" I asked. "It's just a picture." He handed me 2 more. "Same face," he said. "Same angle. Same smile. Same shadows. Look closer." I studied them, one of me by a fence, another by a swing set, another near a fountain. And suddenly I saw it. It wasn't just similar, it was identical. The same expression, the same positioning. My face hadn't changed at all between them, like someone had copied and pasted me into different places. They reused my face, I whispered. My voice sounded distant, like it came from somewhere deep inside my chest. Lucas nodded grimly, then passed me another photo. This one of a baby. Pale skin, lighter hair, different bone structure, and that's when everything started to unravel. That's not you, Lucas said quietly. I don't think they ever had any real baby photos of you. He handed me one last picture, me, Mom, and Dad standing in front of some old building. But my outline looked strange, the edges soft and uneven. The lighting didn't match theirs. I looked like I'd been cut out and half stuck onto the background, as if someone forgot to finish peeling a sticker. I stared at it for a long time before a sound escaped me. Not a laugh exactly. More like the kind of noise that slips out when something inside you finally cracks. So I'm a collage now? I said. That's fun. Lucas didn't laugh. His expression was carved from stone. Why would they fake this? I asked. He didn't answer, and neither did I. There were no explanations that made sense. I didn't realize it then. But 5 hours later, I'd be on the phone with the police. The strange thing about denial is that it doesn't shatter in one clean break. It seeps through slowly, like water from a leaky pipe no one wants to acknowledge. You hear the drip, you smell it. But you keep washing your hands and pretending it isn't there. I sat up all night staring at those photos. Lucas eventually fell asleep beside me, but I didn't move. I just sat there wide-eyed, like a child waiting for monsters to crawl out of the dark. Only this time the monsters already had names. Mom and Dad. The pictures were lined up on my nightstand. Every few minutes I'd glance at them again, half expecting them to correct themselves when I wasn't looking. But they didn't. My face was still duplicated. The same expression, the same posture, frozen in a smile I couldn't remember making. The baby photo still wasn't me. The light was still wrong, and then it hit me. Not like lightning, not like a scream, but like a whisper that sank into my bones. I had no idea where I actually came from, literally. I had no memories before the age of 5. None. When I was younger, I thought that was normal. Or at least something that could be explained away. My parents always said it was because of the war, that I'd seen things, that I was traumatized. They said the mind protects itself. They said a lot of things and I believed them. Because what else could I do? Tell my second-grade teacher I thought I'd skipped being a toddler? That my earliest memory was standing under flickering fluorescent lights in a strange country? My mom telling me to smile at a stranger holding a clipboard? Yeah, that was my first memory, a government office. Buzzing lights, the smell of paperwork and cold air. Everything too bright, too loud, too foreign. I didn't understand a word anyone said, but I understood the look on my mother's face. Perform. After that, life settled into something that looked like normal. We lived in a small apartment. I started school. Mom packed lunches that looked like everyone else's, though she never slipped notes inside. Just perfectly folded napkins. Dad read the newspaper like it was a personal enemy. They worked hard, paid bills, and provided everything I needed, except warmth. When my sister Nina was born 2 years later, the air in our home changed overnight. Suddenly there were baby books, camcorder tapes, glittery scrapbooks, birthday parties with color themes, laughter, affection, hugs, all the things I'd never had. With me, it was always, "You're strong. You don't need much. You've always been so independent." Which really meant, we didn't give you much. For years, I told myself it was because I was the first child, the test run. That they were young and uncertain then. But now, I wasn't sure anymore. We had no relatives. No aunts, no uncles, no cousins. No one ever visited from the old country. We never went back. My parents always said there was no one left. That the war had scattered everyone. Once, I asked about family. My dad muttered something about it being complicated. My mom changed the topic before I could ask again. Then came the Facebook message. I was 15. I walked into the kitchen and saw Mom at the laptop, her face pale and still. There was a message open on the screen, written in a language I couldn't read. Serbian. A woman's name, a few red hearts. Mom's expression didn't move. Then she deleted the message, blocked the sender, and closed the laptop. "Who was that?" I asked. "Spam," she said. "Spam doesn't make your hands shake, but I let it go. Because I always let things go." When I was 17, a doctor diagnosed me with PTSD. Nightmares, panic attacks, this constant sense that something awful. I wasn't afraid of the war. I was afraid of her. That realization didn't strike like a thunderbolt. It came quietly, in fragments. That night, I sat at the kitchen table. The photos Lucas had taken spread out before me. One by one, the memories began flickering through my mind like a flashlight cutting through the dark. A woman appeared first, not my mother, not the one who raised me. Her face was softer, her eyes deep and kind. She smelled faintly of oranges. I was holding her hand, then another face, another woman. Different, but just as gentle. Her voice calm, her hands careful. I was small, clinging to her fingers. Then came her, the woman I grew up calling Mom. Younger then, stepping into the room with a bright smile like she had just arrived. The first woman bent down, speaking to me in Serbian. "This is your babysitter." That was the moment we met. The first time I saw the woman I would later believe was my mother. Another flash, me crying, tugging on my coat. "I want Mama," I sobbed. A hand gripped my shoulder, hard, a voice sharp as a knife. "Don't say that again. If you talk about her, you disappear." Those words lived somewhere deep inside me, buried under years of fake smiles and forced photos. I hadn't remembered them until now. Then came the screaming. I was lying in an unfamiliar bed, kicking, chest tight, gasping for air. I was calling for the woman who smelled like citrus. But another voice cut through, cold, controlled. "Enough." I don't know how long it lasted. Minutes? Hours? Maybe forever. Lucas found me on the kitchen floor, my palms pressed against the tile like I was trying to hold the earth still. My breathing was ragged. When he reached toward me, I flinched. So he sat down beside me, silent, waiting. Somewhere in that fog of panic, I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. The operator answered on the third ring. "Saiwan, what's your emergency?" My lungs refused to cooperate. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. Lucas was beside me, one hand on my back, steady and warm, trying to guide my breathing. Finally, I forced the words out. "I've been kidnapped." A pause. Then the operator's voice, tighter now. "Ma'am, are you safe right now?" I think so." "I'm at home." "Is the person who took you there with you now?" "No," I said. "It was a long time ago." "I think I just remembered it." Another pause. Her tone softened, careful but professional. "Okay, I want you to take a slow breath. You're not in danger right now." "No, but it's real," I whispered. "I remember now." "They weren't my parents." Lucas gently took the phone from me. "Hi," he said evenly. "This is her fiancé. She's having a panic attack. It started about 15 minutes ago. She's been finding things, old childhood photos that look digitally altered, missing records, inconsistencies. She just had a vivid memory and believes she was abducted when she was around 5. It would have been about 25 years ago, outside the U.S. The operator's voice stayed calm. "I understand. What's your location?" "Lucas gave our address. I'm logging this as a welfare check," she said. "I'll forward it to the department's investigative unit. You'll receive a call from someone who will follow up. If either of you feels unsafe in the meantime, please call us back immediately." Lucas thanked her and ended the call. I was still trembling. But the words were out now. Real. Spoken to someone who existed beyond our apartment walls. That made it undeniable. I didn't sleep. I showered, changed clothes, folded laundry I didn't remember starting. I think I even unloaded the dishwasher. Lucas hovered nearby, making tea, watching me like I might shatter. "You should rest," he said quietly. I nodded, but my body didn't move. I kept waiting for something. A knock at the door, a siren, an explosion of truth. Instead, everything stayed eerily still. The apartment hummed in the background, indifferent to my unraveling. The next morning, an email arrived, case file opened. Pending contact from assigned officer, that was all it said. I showed it to Lucas. He read it twice, then nodded. "It's real now," he said softly. "Real," I echoed, as if it hadn't been real when I was curled up on the kitchen floor, trying to remember whether I'd ever actually had a mother. 2 days later, there was a knock. 3 measured taps. Calm. Deliberate. When I opened the door, my mother stood there, holding a brown paper bag like she'd baked something. My father was just behind her, hands shoved in his coat pockets, his face a blank mask. "Can we come in?" she asked, already stepping forward. Lucas appeared beside me. I hesitated, then slowly nodded. They entered like polite guests, sitting stiffly on the couch. My mother set the paper bag down on the coffee table between us, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't sure who she really was. She walked in holding a brown paper bag. "I made that carrot soup you used to like," she said softly. "The one I made when you were sick that time. That time when I was 8 and she told me to stop crying because I wasn't dying. That soup." "Thanks," I replied, my tone flat as glass. She adjusted her coat, eyes drifting around the apartment as if the walls might whisper what to say. My father remained standing, distant, hands buried in his coat pockets. "We spoke with the police," she said at last, her voice careful. "They told us you filed a report." I did. For a second, she looked like she wanted to be insulted but couldn't find the energy for it. "You could have come to us first. Would you have told me the truth?" A pause, a blink. "We didn't want to hurt you." Lucas, sitting nearby, broke the silence. "So, it's true then?" My father finally stepped forward. "Yes," he said simply. "You're not biologically ours." I exhaled slowly through my nose. It wasn't relief, just the confirmation of something I'd already begun to accept, but needed to hear aloud. My mother nodded. "Your real mother was young. Too young. She couldn't care for you. She begged us to take you." "Begged?" I echoed. "She wanted you to have a better life," my mother continued. "We were leaving and she was staying behind. It was wartime. She knew what that meant. So where is she now?" My mother folded her hands in her lap. "We don't know. You never even checked, did you? It was complicated." Lucas crossed his arms. "Why fake the photos?" My father didn't even flinch. "We wanted her to feel like she belonged. So you erased her entire past and made up a new one?" Lucas shot back. My mother's voice wavered. "You were 5. You cried for her for weeks." It was unbearable. "But eventually you adjusted. You forgot. We thought that was best. You could have told me." "And said what?" she snapped. "That we took you from your mother? That your first 5 years were a life you'd never remember? You would have hated us. You think I don't already?" The room went still. Then she reached into the bag and pulled out a photo. Me, maybe 6 years old, holding my father's hand. "This one's real," she said, like that somehow redeemed everything. I didn't touch it. They both rose to leave. My father looked at Lucas, then at me. "We didn't steal you," he said quietly. "We saved you," I didn't respond. Neither did Lucas, and for one brief, shameful heartbeat, I almost believed them. "Tell me your name," I said finally. Not softly. Not as a request. My mother blinked as if she didn't understand the question. My father rubbed his face. "Tired of me. Tired of the truth." "You were 5, she murmured. "Your memories aren't reliable. Try me," she shook her head. "We didn't want to hurt you." "You already did." They exchanged a look, an old, heavy one. And then my father spoke, his voice like a confession. "Mara Petrovich, no address. No contact, just a name." When I pressed for more, my mother only said, "We lost touch. It was war." Right, because apparently war erases your ability to type a name into a search bar. That night we started digging, Lucas on his laptop, me on mine. My Serbian is decent when talking to elderly relatives about food, but online searches are a different story. Mara Petrovich wasn't a rare name. We hit dead ends fast. A florist in Novi Sad, a retired gym teacher in Belgrade. Then, a grainy Facebook profile caught my eye. No smile, no filters, just a woman with dark hair pulled back, early 50s, faint lines around her eyes. and a face that made my stomach twist. I stared. Lucas leaned closer. "She looks like you." I shook my head. "No, I look like her." It wasn't just resemblance, it was something deeper, unsettling. The kind of likeness that lives in your bones, the kind you don't notice until someone else points it out. Same jawline, same eyes, same expression when she wasn't trying to have one. She hadn't posted in months. But her profile listed a town in southern Serbia, the same name I'd overheard once. When I was 10, when my mother slipped up, we sent a message. Google Translate helped, though it sounded robotic. Lucas reread it 3 times before hitting send. I just watched the screen, frozen, waiting for it to come alive. "Hello, I was given your name. I think I might be your daughter." Then we waited. Her reply came the next morning. "One line, can we talk?" We set up a video call. I don't even remember agreeing. Lucas handled it, clicking through the steps while I sat wrapped in a blanket, feeling like I was about to meet someone who'd been haunting my dreams for years. And then, her face appeared. Older than the photo, tired, but still her. Still me. She didn't speak at first. Just looked at me through the screen. Her hand flew to her mouth as if she needed to keep something from spilling out. "I wasn't sure," she finally managed, voice trembling. "But now that I see you, I wanted to answer, to say anything at all. But the words stuck somewhere behind the tight ache in my throat. I've been searching for you for 25 years, she whispered, then said my name. Not Isabel, Milena. I froze. The name didn't trigger recognition, but it felt right, like slipping into shoes I hadn't worn in years yet still molded to my feet. Did you give me away? I asked. Her face faltered. Not dramatically, not like a movie breakdown, just quietly folded in on itself. Her lips parted, then closed again before she finally said, "No, God, no." She looked off to the side, steadying herself, and when her eyes returned to me, they were glassy with old pain. "You were 5, she began softly. "I had to leave you with someone I trusted, a neighbor, a friend, just for a couple of hours while I went to the municipal office to finalize some documents. When I came back, you were gone." She drew a shaking breath. "They told me your babysitter had left early, said you'd gone with her, but you never came home." Her voice cracked. "We searched everywhere. Every police station, every camp. I hung flyers, called every shelter I could find. Everyone kept saying children get lost in war, but I knew you hadn't gotten lost. You'd been taken." She stopped, blinking back tears. "I just didn't know where to look." I sat frozen. Lucas was the one who finally asked, "Did you ever try to leave the country?" She nodded. "I was approved for resettlement. Families with children got priority. Everything was ready. But after you disappeared, they removed me from the list." She looked at me again. "Not that I could have left without you." And then it hit, harder than any memory ever could. That was why they took me, why they needed me, why they had pasted my face into their perfect little photo album. They didn't take me because they loved me. They took me because I got them out. Silence stretched between us. Her eyes were red. Mine burned. Lucas sat beside me quietly, holding the space together so it wouldn't collapse. "I never knew where you ended up," she said finally, voice low. "I thought maybe someone took you across the border, or that you didn't survive. I didn't know what to hope for. I didn't know what to say to that. What do you say to someone who lost you?" "They changed my name," I said instead. "Isabel," she repeated softly, like it hurt to say. "My Lena was your grandmother's name." I didn't feel anger, not peace either, just emptiness, a clean, hollow space where something used to be. Like someone had scooped out everything that made me me and left only the shell so I could keep pretending to function. 2 weeks later, we stood side by side in the police station. She wore a navy blue coat. I brought the photos. The officer took our statements, asked questions I can barely remember answering. Then my real mother reached into her purse and pulled out a worn, folded flyer, the original missing person notice. My name, Milena Petrovich, age 5, printed beneath a grainy photograph. "Last seen wearing a red scarf. This is her," she said firmly. "This is my daughter." And for the first time, someone nodded. Someone else believed it officially on record. We pressed charges. And that day, I stopped pretending my past was something I owed to anyone else. It never went to trial. The evidence spoke for itself. They were convicted during the investigation. Immigration fraud, forgery, concealing an international child abduction. Turns out they never even gave up their Serbian passports. They'd just hidden them, tucked away in a drawer beside whatever was left of their conscience. Their American citizenship was revoked. Within 6 months, they were deported. No appeals, no second chances, and they can never come back. Nia stayed, of course. She was born here. At first, she didn't talk much, just stared at the floor like she was waiting for the world to make sense again. Then one day, she came over and said quietly, "That was really messed up. It wasn't an apology exactly, but it was something." Now we talk more than we ever did as kids. She's not my sister by blood, but she still remembers how I take my coffee. And somehow, that counts. As for Mara, my real mother, she moved to the U.S. 6 months after everything settled. A family reunification visa. Lucas and I helped her with the paperwork. She got a job at a bakery a few blocks from our apartment. Says the smell reminds her of the one she worked at when she was 21, before everything fell apart. We're planning the wedding now. She's on the guest list. She cried when she got the invitation. The people who raised me lost everything, but their whole life had been built on a lie. So when it finally came crashing down, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Did I go too far or not far enough? Tell me in the comments.